Welcome to a Sunday night edition of Taking It to the Know. Tonight, I have a very special show. I've got a new brand, LaVega Cigars. LaVega Cigars is the brainchild of, and you're going to learn all about Aaron Paoletta. Now, Aaron has more than just cigars he brings to the table. He brings music to the table. He brings culinary arts to the table. You're going to learn a lot about Aaron and how he pulled all of this together to create his brand over the years. And now we launched something called LaVega Cigars. And we'll learn all about what that means in just a moment. But before we do that, I just want to say, hey, I just got back from vacation. I've had the most amazing time. So now I'm ready to get back in the saddle again. And we're going to just rock with this show. So I know Aaron is excited to be on. But before we do that, we're going to do a little advertising segment as usual.
And today's show is brought to you by Casa Cuevas Cigars. In the 19th century, Juan Cuevas, Spanish immigrant from Santander, began what was to be a family business which now spans 4 generations. Like others fortunate enough to live and work in Pinar del Rio province of Cuba, Juan commenced cultivating tobacco, turning it into a successful business. Years later, in the Ciabo Valley of the Dominican Republic, Luis Cuevas Sr., Juan Jr.'s son, carried on the family tradition of handcrafting fine cigars in the family's cigar factory, Tabacalera Las Lavas. Today, Luis Sr. is joined by his son Luis Jr. in the manufacturing and sale premium long filler cigars. So check out Casa Cuevas Cigars at www.casacuevascigars.com and on their Instagram and Facebook channels.
Brother Aaron, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Jimmie. How you doing? Thanks, man. I've been excited to do this.
Yes, I have been too, and haven't done a show in 2 weeks because I had to prep for vacation, go on vacation, and come home from vacation. So I'm all rested, I think.
Such a hard life you live, brother.
It's been rough. It's been rough since February. When you're unemployed, it's rough. But it isn't that rough because I actually have, I'm retired, so there's money to survive. So
I had an old friend when he retired. He actually told me one time that you're busier when you retire than when you worked. And I think it's because all those years you're so busy that you can't do anything. When you retire, you're so busy doing everything to try to catch up. You're busy beyond belief. But it's good that you stay busy, though.
Well, what I've discovered to add to that, yes, it is busy because you have all these things you want to do. But I like to think of it as I'm trying to find my soul. In other words, I'm really trying to know what it is I really want to do when I grow up. What is it that I've done all these years? I've done all these different things. I'm an engineer, retired engineer, so I solve a lot of problems. I don't solve problems anymore because I don't have that kind of work. But that was kind of moving me. But then cigars move me. And then there are other things. There's family, there's friends. So it's really whittling it down. You begin to realize that, is this really all that important? What's more important? Because I don't have to answer to anybody. I answer to myself.
True. So, that's true. As long as you have fun doing it, man, you're all good.
I'm gonna die with a smile on my face. That's all I know.
There you go.
So we just did the sponsor segment, and of course, one of our sponsors is Casa Cuevas, which you're involved with, and we'll get
I
into
am.
that in a moment, how you got connected with them. But let's reel it back a little. And I guess one of the things when I look at your backdrop there, you've got some really fun photos of memories and that very interesting garment in the back. So why don't you talk a little bit about pre LaVega Cigars and how what you were doing and how all of this came eventually to be LaVega Cigars.
Well, I suppose I'd have to go back to June of 2003. I had just graduated high school, Mercer, Pennsylvania, and I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go to college because I'm a classically trained French and European cuisine chef. And my dad, in his effort to get me away from the area, because not that there's anything wrong with where I grew up, but for what I wanted to do, you weren't going to get the knowledge to be that kind of a chef in this area. So I was looking at like the CIA up in New York. I was looking at Johnson and Wales in Denver, Colorado. I come home one day and my dad says, "Hey, you want to do Le Cordon Bleu? How about Las Vegas?" I'm like, "I don't know shit about Las Vegas, so why not? Let's look this up." Now, this was back before internet was a big thing, and you really couldn't find much. So I was sitting around one night watching the Ocean's 11 movie with George Clooney and Matt Damon, and I was like, "Wow, if that's what Vegas looks like I'm interested. That looks fun." So he signed me up. Him and my mom drove me out in December of 2003. Did my interview with the school, got ready to go, came home for the holiday, and then turned around and went back out there to start classes in January. That started everything that's happened in my life today. So as much as I couldn't stand living in Las Vegas, at a certain point, it's a huge mark on who I am in life and what I've done. Because I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I became an adult in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I always tell
So,
people I grew up in New York. I became an adult in Boston when I moved there.
yep, and both have a profound effect on who I am. But when you become an adult, that's where you learn and you retain everything. So this garment that's hanging behind me, this is actually the chef's coat that I wore on graduation day from Le Cordon Bleu. I wore it one day only, and then it went into this case that my father made for me, and it's been hanging on my wall ever since.
Now, what did you specialize in culinary?
Um, that's real hard to answer. I suppose that depends on what night of the week it was, because in school we were taught French, European, and Italian cuisine. Mostly French and European because it was a French school. But when you go into the hotel casinos in Las Vegas, you're dealing with a multitude of different nationalities and backgrounds that come to Las Vegas. So you kind of have to learn everything. So I learned Asian cuisine. I was a sushi chef for a little while. French, Italian. I mean, it just we did everything. We did the banquets for 5,000-10,000 people. Then I did smaller, fine dining restaurants, and these were 4 or 5 diamond resorts that I was working in. So it really just depended on where they needed me, and we all got kind of floated around in the different restaurants inside of the hotels.
Now, were you like into cooking prior to going to school for this? Did you dabble in the kitchen when you were a kid? Did you,
Well,
how did you really want to become a chef? And when you did you learn, is the things you learn, obviously you learn about recipes, about preparations and all that, but really get into aromas and tastes.
so when I was 4 years old, my father took me downstairs, and he was a drummer. So he set up his drum kit from when he was a kid and his drum set, and we played. So I've always been a musician. Well, I knew that I didn't want to go to school to be a musician because I would have to learn to do like music education where you'd be like a band director. And let's face it, if you get 40 kids going to college for a band director, there's only so many schools you can go to. So it didn't look too promising. My father was a master carpenter, journeyman pattern maker. So naturally, I grew up learning how to build things. And one day I said, you know what, I want to be a cop because let's just face it, I love guns and it's what I wanted to do at the time. My mother was against it. And as part of my high school, they had what was called the Mercer County VOTEC or vocational school. And it gave a chance for juniors and seniors to pick a trade and go off property, off school to learn it. I signed up for culinary. And I did 2 years out there, got my diploma from that school, and that's what prompted me to go to the next step, which was like Cordon Bleu in Las Vegas.
Okay. Now, the second half of that question was about aromas and tastes and things.
What I found in doing the schooling is that it's fascinating how you can take 10 different ingredients and prepare them in 10 different measurements to create one dish. But if you alter the measurement on the same 10 ingredients, you created a completely different tasting dish, and so on and so forth. And the more that I started to do it, the more I realized that we just have infinite possibilities when it comes to food of what you can do. The same 10 ingredients can make 100 different dishes based on how you measure them out. And it was just fascinating. It blew my mind.
Now, you did this. Do you still chef on the side, or you just completely gave that up?
No way, brother. I left all that in Las Vegas. I mean, I cook for myself because without going too in depth on it, in 2019, 2020, when my father was going through his last issues before he passed away, the stress of all that really got me, and it really screwed up my gut. So I've had to create a diet that doesn't bother my gut anymore. So my schooling, which was not just European and French cuisine, I also went to a different college for healthy cooking. So I was able to create something that I can eat now and not mess myself up. So I still cook, but it's more just for myself. And my wife doesn't like eating my stuff because I make dishes that are this big. And, she wants, when we sit down to eat, we want to eat.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. My wife has all kinds of food aversions, but she makes me the most amazing food. She's not a chef, but she can follow a recipe and finds these amazing recipes. And she does it right. She's got all the measuring dishes out. She's cooking well. And but she doesn't eat 90% of what she cooks for me. And I solved that gut problem by having my gallbladder out. So that's
I solved it by losing 55 pounds and just eating right. So
yeah, I did that too. I also, right. And I lost that 80 pounds last year. Matter of fact, I'm coming up on the 1-year anniversary of having lost 80 pounds and climbing a 13,000-foot mountain. So
damn,
I don't feel so bad. So, now, where are you with your music endeavors? You still playing music? You still got a band, guys that you get together with, or is that on the back burner?
No, then 2017 is when we ended that. So I'll give a brief background on my music. In 2008, when I was living in Las Vegas, I had the idea to create a small trio. So it was a jazz trio. So I'm a saxophonist, but I've been playing drums my whole life. And my brother plays sax, my sister plays drums. And one day I was like, you know what, let's just do a little trio. So we did. I started writing all the music out, and I wanted to record it. So I was looking around in Las Vegas, and I found this one recording studio, which he actually ended up becoming a good friend of mine, Les Warner. He was the original drummer for the Cult back in the 70s. And he had a studio. So we went there, recorded 3 songs. And then I just maintained my friendship with him. He sold me a lot of the stuff that I ended up starting my own studio with. And I ended up putting a studio in 2010 down on a dingy little street in Las Vegas called Meade Avenue, Meade, and which inevitably became the name of my band. Recorded a plethora of albums for a variety of different genres. And then one day I went home and I was kind of bitching to my wife. I'm like, I'm sick and tired of recording all this music and watching these bands go places. Like, I kind of want to do my own. And she's like, well, why don't you start a band? I'm like, I don't really know if I have the time. And she's like, just start one and have fun. But now it was a matter of what genre am I going to do? So I went back to my roots, which was drums. Now, when I play drums, I look like the animal from the Muppets. Because I mean, I had long hair. If you look up, Born Again or Taking Back Tomorrow, which the two music videos did, my hair is flying everywhere, and like I had to actually practice without my glasses on, and I would purposely put my hair in my face because on stage I took my glasses off. So I had to learn how far to reach for the cymbals and the drums. Like it was a big thing to do that. But ended up naming the band after the street because I was sitting, which is weird because where Mead Ave connects to Valley View Road, there's never any traffic there. And one night there was just traffic out of nowhere. So I'm sitting there, and that was the night I was thinking, okay, what do I call this band? I just happened to look up at the road sign. I'm like, hey, Mead Ave, that's kind of a cool gimmick. And I named it Mead Ave. And we did that for about 10 years before we finally called it quits.
So the band is on the back burner, no more chefing, and you decided to follow your third passion of cigars. I believe you were smoking cigars for a while before that.
Yeah.
When you got into the cigar world, and I'll let you tell the story how it progressed, but I'm curious to how you took your culinary experience and applied it to cigars, from aromas, taste, and those ingredients that you can combine many different ways. And while we're at it, because there are a few companies out there that'll tell you a similar story, music and cigars, the composition, you know where I'm going. So
I know where you're going. So you like to ask 10,000 questions in one. So I'll start at the beginning of it all.
I'm going to let you run with it.
Yeah, I'll give you a little prelude. We'll start with that. So I've been smoking cigars since I was 18. I used to smoke cigarettes when I was a kid, which I'm sure like every kid did, and we didn't have vaping back then, so cigarettes is what it was. And then one day I went to a local lounge here in Sharon, Pennsylvania, which is still open to this day, and it's called Penn Ohio Cigar. And it's been sold, but George was the original founding owner of it. And I walked in, I bought a cigar. I don't even remember what cigar it was, but I'm like, wow, this is different. Like I like this better because I'm not getting a fix. Like I'm enjoying myself. So 18 years old, walk in, I buy a cigar, sit down, I'm enjoying myself. I'm like, there's something to this. So I started to do it a little bit more and more. And then I found it kind of went hand in hand with the food, because a proper elegant dinner and then a proper elegant cigar afterwards just completed the whole experience. And then during my schooling, I trained as a wine sommelier, pairing different wines to the food. Well, then I started pairing different wines and liquors to my cigars, and it just kind of kept going from there. Well, we're going to fast forward a little bit now. So this is 2016. My wife and I decided we wanted to move back to Pennsylvania, and I'm doing some odds and ends jobs until we left because I was out of the kitchen at that point. And I ended up doing some work for a gentleman named Michael Fry, who owns Fry Boy Tobacco. He's also real good friends with Carlito Puente Jr. He owns Casa Puente out in Las Vegas and a couple other ones, Monte Cristo Cigar Bar. And as part of the day, moving all his stuff, he gave me 2 cabinet humidors that came out of, I believe, Casa Puente when they redid it. And he gave me a boatload of Arturo Fuente cigars. And that's when it really started to kick in, because now I had matured, not just as a man, but my palate matured. So there's a reason that young kids don't like cigars, is because their palate's not ready for that boldness of taste. So at that point, I was like 20, 29, 30, something like that. And I'm like, okay, this tastes different than I remember when I was younger. So started to get into a little bit more. We get back to Pennsylvania, and I have more time now because I'm not living in the hustle of the big city, and I'm out in the country and I'm enjoying myself and I'm smoking more cigars. We get into 2020, right after my dad passed away, and I was like, you know what, let me start a mobile cigar lounge. and I'm a Freemason. So I took this lounge around to the different Masonic lodges. I would set up, the brothers would come in, have cigars, we'd all smoke. It was brotherhood, fellowship. And I started to like it more and more. And I was like, you know what? I want to create my own. So I dabbled in doing a blend. It didn't really work too well. Went back to doing it. And then I also had my cigar talk show that I'm now in my 4th season filming. And one day, because I had made friends with a guy named Jovan over at the Grand Resort in Warren, Ohio, and he was inviting me over to these different events. So I go in, this is probably 2022, right after I became a certified cigar sommelier tobacconist. I went over to this event, and it was Casa Cuevas night. And I'm sitting down I always choose the table right next to where everyone sets up, because I'm normally interviewing them when they're there as part of my show. And I'm sitting there with my cameraman, Evan, and I'm just getting ready to light into the Sangre Nueva, which is the one that Alec Cuevas created. And that was, I think it was only out for like 2 weeks at that point. And I clipped the cap, I took the dry draw, and I'm like, God, this tastes like beef jerky. And I could not get that out of my head. And I'm looking at Evan, I'm like, dude, do you taste that? And he goes, yeah, that's interesting. So Alec goes walking in front of the table, and I says, hey, brother, can I stop you real quick? And he comes over and says, is this thing supposed to taste like beef jerky? And he said, I'm surprised you got that. Well, that turned into a 3-hour conversation and a handshake. At the end of the night, they were now going to be producing my cigars. So because of him,
you've never been down to their factory, you've never saw their production, and have you known the brand beforehand?
No, I heard of it once because I actually, they were doing it. So the country club that I'm a member at, which is Avalon, they were doing an event there, and I was actually out of town and I couldn't go. About a year later, they were back at the Grand Resort, and that's when I decided to go. So I think I had their Connecticut or their Maduro or something like that. I can't remember which one. So I only had smoked like 1 or 2 at the time, and they just happened to be there. And it was just by sheer happenstance that we were just chatting 3 hours, met Luis Jr., which is who I deal with now. And just at the end of the night, I mean, I remember leaving there, and I called my wife, and I said, Jack, I says, I'm making my own cigar. And she goes, how? And I said, I got to tell you this when I get home. This is too long for this phone conversation.
Got to book a trip to the Dominican, honey.
Yeah. So I get home, I start thinking about it. And because I was a chef, you know, we were always taught to prep and plan for, you know, way more than we needed to and way in advance. I already had bands ready to go. I already had names picked out. I just didn't have blends. So now we'll get into where you wanted to know about the blending, like the creation of flavors. So I look at tobacco the same way I look at ingredients, food ingredients. Every tobacco has a different taste. It has a different aroma. And I had an idea of what I wanted. So I sent down a list of different blend options, and they sent me samples. And I'm smoking the hell out of them, like, okay, I like this, and just start flopping everything around until I finally came up with the El Primo, the El Secondo, and the El Terzo. Now, I'm from Italian heritage, so I name everything in Italian. Well, Primo, which you're smoking the Primo right now.
Number one.
Primo means the first, Secondo means the second, Terzo means the third. And that's in the order I chose these blends. Now, when I release these blends, you know, normally when a company first starts, they release one blend and like 3 to 5 different vitolas. Being a chef, I needed something that attracted everyone's palate. So I came out with 3 different blends, 3 different strengths, 3 completely different flavor profiles. So if you walk into the store and you say, I'm looking for a mild to medium, I got you. I want a medium, I got you. I want a medium to full, I got you. I had something for everyone. And then over time, I released the new Vitola, and then I have a new cigar coming out, which I can get to a little bit later. But then you asked about the music. Okay, so I'm a jazz guy. Any urban jazz. Dave Cause is my favorite saxophonist. Boney James, Mindy Bear, Michael Langton. And there's a certain feeling you get when you're trying to relax. And that's why I love the cigar community so much, because it's not a habit, it's a lifestyle. When we sit in and sit down for a cigar, we're enjoying the cigar, we're enjoying the company. And the music makes or breaks what you're doing. It makes or breaks the environment. So when I'm sitting down for a cigar, and the only reason I don't have my jazz playing, I turn it off, is because I'm talking to you, but my jazz was going because it relaxes me. Now, if I were to put on Five Finger Death Punch, I'm not going to enjoy the cigar, because now I'm going to be angry and I'm going to be wanting to do something. So the music definitely plays in, because I look at everything as it's a time, a place, and an emotion. And when you look at some of these old timers that have been smoking the same cigar for 40 years and won't change, it's because they created a memory with that cigar. And when they smoke it, they remember that day. And
Yeah,
that's
because
what I try.
those aromas you get out of a cigar bring you back
Yep.
to things. Even if the aroma, even if it's not a cigar you smoke all the time, sometimes you smoke that cigar and there's an aroma that comes off that cigar and reminds you of a kid with, sitting at the lunch table and your mother's making hot chocolate on the stove in a pot. It's like,
Yep.
you just immediately put yourself in that mode. You're like, God, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. And that's why our senses are everything. So when you think the sense of taste, okay, I'm tasting this, the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, the sight, I'm putting all of this together and I'm creating a memory. And it's the memories that last forever, which is also why I hang up so many pictures everywhere, because it's just good memories. Which actually, Luis and Alec, that was the night that, I don't know if you can actually see it, but this photo right here,
Okay.
that was actually the night that LaVega Cigar Co. was born.
All right. And now that was in 23 or 22? Late 22?
That was in 22, and I officially went to market May 11th, 2023, which May 11th is actually my grandmother's birthday, who passed away, and she was my girl. So everything that I do, it always has something to do with her birthday.
Yes. Yes. And it has to do with, you talk about your father in your writings, your family. It's very Italian, without a doubt.
Yep.
Having been in an Italian family, having been married to an Italian for many years, I get it. It's all about.
It goes. I talk about my father and my grandmother a lot, but there's two people that have backed me more than anyone, and these two women are the reason I am. Like, I made myself who I am, but they pushed me to be what they knew I could be. And without my wife and my mother, I would not be here mentally, physically, whatever. Both of them drive me to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Like, don't take no for an answer. If you want to do it, do it. Anytime I want to do something, out of respect, I'll tell my wife, hey, Jack, what do you think of this? And she'd be like, go do it. Like, without hesitation, won't even say it. Then I'll call my mother. So my wife pushes me to, okay, go do it. Don't be a bitch. Go do it if you want to do it. My mother is more the business side of things, and she'll help me figure out, okay, how are we going to calculate all this? How are we going to make this work? So my team is small but powerful.
Yeah, my current wife, she's my enabler. I said if I was a crackhead, I'd be dead on the street.
Right.
But she encourages whatever it is I want to do. She's like, although she did get a little nervous when we were on vacation and we were going out to restaurants every night for dinner, and I didn't care. Okay. I had set aside a certain amount of budget for this year for just celebrating retirement, where I don't really care about how much something costs. I'm just going to enjoy my earnings.
Yep.
So we were going out to restaurants, and she's looking at the tabs and the bills, and you could see it in her face. And she told me, I was freaking out. I was adding those numbers up in my head. Don't add them up. I said, it didn't matter. We were on vacation. We were enjoying ourselves. And she goes, well, you'd like to do what you want to do, so let's keep doing it.
Yep.
Of course, the last night was a crawl through Portland, Maine on doing a little self-guided brewery tour, which started in about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and yeah, that was
Long night.
well, I had to get up. We had to get up, but we had to catch a 6:30 flight in the morning.
Jeez.
So I decided to go do breweries the night before I'm getting on an airplane.
Well, at least you were well
Yeah.
rested on the airplane.
I was well rested on a plane, exactly. Yeah, but but we, she made sure that she took care of me and that, got me back to the hotel correctly, as we did it. She doesn't drink, so it's good. Designated driver's already there, so it was good. But yeah, no, if you got people like that behind you, you could do anything. All right. And if you stumble and you fall, you get back up, you lick your wound, and you go, okay, I'll correct what I do and take a lesson, because nobody
'Cause
gets through without failure.
I have a saying for that. I don't believe in failure. I believe that I either win or I learn, because in every losing situation there's a lesson to be learned. And as long as you learn that lesson, you can never lose. You just figured out what not to do next time.
Yeah.
And that's just how I go through life. I'm winning or I'm learning, but no matter what, I'm going to do it though.
So there you go. You opened up another door. What's your biggest lesson you ever learned to date?
Don't let people. How do I want to word this? Be careful who you tell your plans to, because you've got two types of people in this world, in my opinion. You've got dreamers and you've got doers. And it always seems that the dreamers are the ones to tell you not to do something. So I analyze everyone who sits at my table. And if they're not as good as me or better, I'm at the wrong table. And I'm not saying that to like disregard anybody. I'm saying that where I am mentally and spiritually in life, I need people that can drive me to do something better. And it's never a challenge with the people at my table. It's more of a friendly competition to, okay, you're doing this, so let me see what I can do now. The hardest lesson, I would say, it's keeping your mouth shut and not telling anybody what you're doing, and you just do it. Because people have a habit of getting into your head and talking you out of something before you even try.
Right.
You got to try.
You got to try. And if you
Because
and like you say, if you fall, it's a lesson, and you'll know better next time.
I've had a lot of advice over the years, and there's a couple, and I always tell this story. It's like, I told you, my wife pushes me. There's no excuses. If you want to do something, you go do it. And she's my driving force. My grandmother was the same way. If you want to do something, go do it. My senior year politics teacher, her name is Miss Giles, and all right. So in my school, 59.5% or higher was passing. Well, Miss Giles didn't play that. It was either 60% or nothing. So last day of school, last official day of like grades keeping in school, she called us all back individually to the back of the class, and she didn't say a word. She pointed to a grade book and showed you what you got. And I saw 59.6, and next to it was an F. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? Because that's a failing, which means I'm not going to graduate on time. And for years, I hated her. I mean, just despised her. I didn't get a chance to walk across stage with my class. It destroyed my mother. And I mean, it was bad. So now we'll go back a little bit. When I was in my second class in culinary school, my teacher, German chef, Heinz Lauer was his name. And same thing, he brought us up at the end of the class, and he pointed in his grade book, and he showed us what we got. And I had an 89.9. It was a B plus. And I looked at him and I said, Chef, you can't round that up. And that's 0.01% away from being an A. And he said, why? You didn't earn an A. You earned a B plus. And I just walked away. I was so pissed off. I walked away and I went back to my seat, and I'm like, you know what? That's what she was doing. She was teaching me that if you want something, you got to earn it. So years and years and years later, I finally, I tell that story all the time. And my wife was like, have you ever thanked her? And I was like, no, I've never talked to her about it. And she said, don't you think you should? So I actually made an appointment to go to my high school and thank her for failing me, because it was the lesson that she taught. Now, when two other points here, we're talking good advice. When my mother and father dropped me off that day, they dropped me off at right before my class started that day for school, and then they were driving back to Pennsylvania. My mother told me, be a sponge. You are paying for this education, but people are going to talk. Listen to what they have to say. So that was a fantastic piece of advice, because people are going to share things with you, real life experiences, knowledge. You're going to gain so much more just by listening. Shut your mouth and listen. Now, my father, and I'll keep it polite because we're on camera, but he said, "Now don't you come home." Now, there's a few other words in that saying, but he said, "Now don't you come home." Shook my hand and said, "Now don't you come home." Now, he wasn't telling me I wasn't welcome at home. He was telling me not to give up.
Right.
And that's why I say it's people like that they just drive me to keep going. You be careful what advice you let in your head is the best thing I can say on that.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. I should have an advice channel.
You should.
What I want to do here is I want to go to your website for a second.
All right.
And I want you to kind of walk through some things in here. We'll walk through the cigars, and then we could talk a little bit about how people can follow you and all of that. So let me just share this for a second. All right. So on your site, this is your site. So people that don't know, it's LaVegaLounge.com/LaVega Cigars.
Or it can be LaVegaCigars.com.
I think it drops you back into this, though, right?
But both web domains go to the same website.
Go to the same place, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So first question I have is LaVega. All right. I know the story, but quickly explain how the name LaVega came to be.
So LaVega itself is actually one word. And I have to tell everybody that, because La Vega is actually a place in the Dominican. Essentially, La Vega is Las Vegas without the essence. I named this company after what made me who I am today. So that's my way of paying homage to Las Vegas.
Okay. So we go to the cigars, go right into that. So you have 3 cigars in your line, like you said. You got the El Primo, the El Segundo, and the El Terzo.
Yep.
So we'll talk about the El Primo first. All right. Talk through this. What makes this cigar special? Besides my numbers.
Besides your ratings on there, I'd have to say I don't think that anything really makes my cigars more special than another, but I can tell you what I was going for when I created these. So I'm a big fan of Maduros. I wanted 2 Maduros, but 2 different blends. So the Mexican San Andreas wrapper is actually my favorite leaf. So chose to go with that for the wrapper. You get a lot of earth tones out of that. You get some nuttiness, a little bit of like sourdough in it. And then you go to the Dominican binder. That gives you the punch. That gives you a little bit of dirt. It gives you black pepper, because, Dominican tobacco has that punch to it.
And that's not Dominican Olor, as in the other 2 cigars.
No, that's just Dominican leaf. When you get into the long fillers, you get Colombian, Nicaraguan, Pennsylvania broadleaf. Now, if you notice, just to save time, Pennsylvania broadleaf I used in everything, because I think Pennsylvania broadleaf is very underrated yet overused. And I'll get to why I say that, because I also say that about, I say something similar about the Piloto Cubano and the Segundo. So the Colombian, more on the mild side, nice sweet tones. Nicaraguan, you've got some beef to it. Pennsylvania broadleaf, it's got some ass behind it. But with Pennsylvania broadleaf, you got to be very careful how much you use, because you can ruin a cigar if you use too much of that. It's just, there's a reason it's a filler. It is a good filler tobacco. Strength is medium. I offer it in 2 different Vitolas, 6x50 Toros, 5x52 Robustos. Personally, I enjoy the Robustos a little bit more as far as the flavor profile is concerned. but the Toros, that was the first one that I came out. When you move over to the Segundo, now this one has an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, and I got to tell you, it's one of the creamiest Ecuadorian Habano wrappers that I've ever personally tasted, and I love that creaminess because not only does that add to the flavor, it adds to the texture as well. It adds to the mouthfeel that you get when the smoke hits your palate and your taste buds. This has a Dominican olor, so it's got that spice to it, but it's also got like baker's spices that get added into it. So not just the spiciness as in like pepper spice, it's got baker's spices, nutmeg, coriander, things like that. Now, the Dominican, a little bit more punch, Nicaraguan, Pennsylvania broadleaf. Here's the thing, that Paoletta Cubano, I'm a huge fan of Paoletta Cubano, but I feel that a lot of companies are actually hesitant to use it because if you put too much of that, it becomes very floral. But if you use just enough of it, you get citrus. So when you smoke that, you'll get some orange zest, some lemon peel. And
that's what I got. I got that citrus rind. That I called it just a shaving or two, a citrus rind. It was there to moisten the palate.
You have to be careful how much you use because it can turn floral very fast if you use too much. Mild to medium, I'm still hesitant on having that mild to medium. Sometimes I think that's like medium plus. Sometimes I think it's mild to medium. I guess it just depends on the time of day that you smoke it. But same Vitolas, 6x50 Toro, 5x52 Robusto.
I had gotten, I put that down as mild to medium also for me, and I try my best to take myself out of the equation when I look at strength, in the sense of nicotine strength is what I rate it as. But I also got what's interesting in this cigar, which I really liked, which I think really helped my experience, was this honey sweetness.
That's the creaminess from the Ecuadorian Habano wrapper.
Well, I got the deeper vanilla cream later, also, but that honey note came in, and man, I just love that in a cigar when I get it. I don't always get it, but man, it hit me just right, especially as an introduction to the cigar.
Well, that's good. So the honey is not something I've heard yet. So, and that's the interesting part about this is, cigars is the same thing as wine and everything else. It's all subjective to the person smoking it. So you're going to pick up the pH levels in your palate is different from the pH levels in my palate. We're all going to get different things. So that's interesting to know that. So move on to the Terrazon. Now this one is more designed for me because I'm a Padron smoker and I make no hiding. I love the Padrones. So it's got the Mexican San Andres wrapper, the Dominican Olor. Now, the Criollo 98, that's for me, that I wanted a cigar that had the Criollo 98 because I am a huge fan of that particular filler because it gives it the balls it needs. And that's where that strength comes from. And I absolutely love that particular tobacco. But in this one, you also get like the Baker's Cocoa because it's a bit on the dry side. You'll get them rich earth tones. You're going to get a little bit of spice to it. The spice will pick up as it goes down through the cigar. When you get to that final third, it comes, full turn. But just a fantastic cigar overall.
And on that one, some of the things that I had picked up was in the beginning, it was a sweet and sour cherry note that came in, which is another one of these things that I don't always get, that cherry. And there was also a maple syrup aroma later in the cigar, which I get enough of it, but it's just, you get this aroma and it's like having pancakes in the morning,
There you go.
I just love it. So let's go to the other thing that's important on this page is you also highlight your Cigar Lounge show. I don't have to get into all the details of that. But if people want to find your cigars, you have a store locator here.
Yes.
All right. And I didn't count them all. How many stores are you in right now?
I think 26 or 27, because I've got a few that I'm waiting to seal the deal with. Couple in Kentucky, couple over in Connecticut, one out in Las Vegas, hopefully towards the end of this summer. But these first 10 are more localized. And now the first one, so Havana House, this one has a story behind it as well. So Tony Bellotto, who owns LaVega Cigars. He was
Mm-hmm.
co-founder on Lost and Found with Robert Caldwell. I was at an Oliva event, and Tony was there. I was talking about my cigars finally coming to fruition, and he comes up and he goes, "Hey, you got your own cigars coming out?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'll take them in my store," because he owns 3 stores, the Havana House. And I said, "Don't you want to try these?" And he goes, "Yeah, but I'll take them." And I says, "Tony, why are you doing that for me?" He goes, "Because I know what it's like to be the new guy. The only thing I ask is when someone needs your help, you help them." And he's been my mentor ever since I got in the game. I got a question, I text him and asked him. He helped me get my OTP license in the state of Ohio. Like, that man has, just like Luis and Alec, I mean, that man he's helped get me where I'm at.
Okay. And Tony, I've known him for a number of years. He's quite the gentleman when it comes to cigar business. He has always done amazing things.
Yep.
And I his La Barbers were off the chart.
I love the orange one's my favorite one.
Yes.
But that crochet though that he does, that crochet in the Corona Vitola, man, that thing just hits you hard.
We just stop share. Yeah, he has some strong ones, but that's okay. You need those. You need to have that full line, like you said, because if you want to bring somebody over to your brand, and you're a certified tobacconist, right? So you understand if you were in a shop, you want to have something that they can sell to whoever walks in that shop. And there's a lot of things to pick from on shop shelves. You're just a couple of 3 boxes sitting on a shelf space amongst a plethora of other cigars, and the average consumer is going to go in and they know what they like and they go get what they want. But a good tobacconist knows their consumers, right? And will say, "Hey, I know you like these, but have you tried this new cigar? It fits your palate based on what I know you like."
Yep. And that's another thing too. And I always tell, like, any of these retailers that I go to visit. Now, first off, I will never just show up to a lounge. And
Can't
these
do that.
these lounge owners, when I call, because they're kind of caught off guard when I call them. Like, I just got off the phone with Fat Ash in Asheville, Kentucky, and I'm going to visit them at the end of July because I got an event down in Charlotte, and then I got an event up in Tiffin, Ohio, and on the way through, I'm going to meet with him. And he just seemed dumbfounded that I was calling and asking permission. And I told him, I said, "This is a respect thing. I know you got reps showing up at all day, every day. I'm not just going to show up. I need to make sure that you're of sound mind and you actually want to sit down and meet with me. Because when I go in, I don't just drop off samples and say, 'Here, try this. Tell me what you think.' We smoke." Because my father used to tell me, if you can't look a man in the eye and shake his hand, you have nothing. And if I can't sit down and smoke with you, I don't want to be on your shelf. If you don't know who I am, where I come from, know my story, and you don't like my cigars, don't put them on your shelf, because that means you're not going to push them, and I'm just going to be another cigar on your shelf. So all the stores that I'm in, I have personally met and smoked with the owners and the managers. And it will be like that up until I can't control it no more. And my sales rep, Vince, knows the same thing. We call ahead, we get permission, we go, we sit, we smoke, we bullshit, we have a good time.
And that's the right thing to do. I talk to a lot of brand owners, and and I know a lot of shops, and the last thing shops want is having somebody walking in out of the blue. They ain't got time, make an appointment. Yep. And sometimes you got to visit them more than once,
Oh, yeah.
You're
You
going to talk to them, you drop them off samples. They ain't got time to even smoke sample with you. Say, "Okay, I'll talk to you. Tell me about your brand." You give them a few samples. Then you follow up. You say, let me follow up with you in a week or whatever, and see what you thought about it.
Yep.
And then continue to work it and close that deal, get that handshake.
And that actually just happened to me. So Patricia over at Casa Aficionado in Delaware, Ohio, I had been after her for 5 months. Gave her samples, kept in touch. I was down doing the Charleston Smokeout in South Carolina, and I called her again. Like, I'm going to keep calling until she either tells me no or tells me, "Yeah, let's do something." And I had the idea and to go in and do a cut and light, even though I'm not in her store yet. And I said, "Look, at the end of the day, we'll do the cut and light. We'll split the thing, split the profits at the end. If you like them, we can do business. And she's like, you know what? I like that idea. So she brought me in. She gave me a chance. At the end of that event, she signed me in. And I mean, I just couldn't thank her enough because she actually gave me a chance. It took a while, but she actually gave me a chance.
There you go. Sometimes that's what it takes. At this point, I want to take our last commercial sponsor break. It's about 4 minutes. When we come back, what I like to dig into is a couple of things. One is I like to talk about your experience with Casa Cuevas, things you might have learned from the team there, because factory going in, some of your observations, because I absolutely love Casa Cuevas and what they do down there. And then also, it would be interesting to dig into some of the things you thought were that you learned by becoming a sommelier in cigars that were maybe similar to food, wine, but maybe some uniqueness that it's worth taking that class because you're going to learn some things that you never knew before.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. So let's Catelli Cigars is back. The past few years brought many questions and changes to the cigar industry. In the wake of all uncertainty, Catelli Cigars decided to take a break and try their hand in the retail side of cigars. With 2 shops under their belt, first Riverside Cigar Bar, and now the Catelli Cigar Lounge in Vero Beach, Florida, they are now more educated in the retail and the wholesale sides of the cigar business. During this time, they received many inquiries about their cigars returning to the market. Making the difficult decision to take a break from their brand was eased, knowing that when the time was right, Catelli would be back, and now they are. Catelli is excited to bring their first release, the Catelli Box Air, back to market. The Box Air, a rich box press San Andreas Mexican Maduro with a Nicaraguan binder and filler, come in Box Air's 3 original sizes, Robusto, Toro, and Gordo. They are simply delicious. You can check out Catelli Cigars at catellicigars.com. And also check out their Facebook and Instagram pages for more information about Catelli Cigars.
And today's show is brought to you by Bocock Brothers Cigars, a new and active brand founded by 2 Honduran brothers, Bryant and Douglas Bocock. The brand zeroes in on those folks that are looking for easy to smoke cigars inspired by unusual circumstances. Very importantly named after their very interesting and imitable last name, Bocock. Right now, Bocock Brothers is featuring their signature edition, made at the A.J. Fernandez factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. It features an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, a Nicaraguan Habano binder, and a Nicaraguan filler. Available in 3 popular formats, a Robusto, a Toro, and a Gordo. You can check out Bocock Brothers Cigars at www.bocockbrothers.com. And today's show is brought to you by Platinum Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova is a family-owned and operated premium cigar company. Only the highest vintage tobacco and the most skilled hand workmanship go into the making of each Platinum Nova cigar. This results in a timeless blend of art and craftsmanship. The Nova brand and the family's work are a tribute and an honor to their grandfather to always remember him and his infinite passion for the finest cigars. Their love for cigars started with their grandfather, a dedicated master blender and entrepreneur in the cigar industry. So the next time you're looking for that exquisite cigar experience, pick up a Platinum Nova. You can check them out at Platinum Nova Cigars, www.novacigar.com, and on their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter channels. And today's show is brought to you by All Saints Cigars, a company founded in 2019 and headed up by industry veteran Mickey Pegg and his 2 friends, Martin Corboy, a successful restaurateur, and Frank Leo, an Air Force Academy graduate military veteran. As Mickey explains it, they were all sitting down, talking and smoking cigars, and finally they decided that they would do this thing together. It was time. Mickey said, I decided if I'm going to work hard at it, it should be something I love. Besides, a tough day with a cigar is better than a great day doing anything else. Soon after, they began the process of launching All Saints Cigars, jokingly referring to themselves as the Holy Trinity, St. Michael, St. Martin, and St. Francis. They chose for their logo the cross of St. James, the patron saint of Nicaragua, the country where their cigars would be produced. You can check out All Saints Cigars at www.allsaintscigars.com.
Okay, back to Aaron. I don't thank all my sponsors. Without them, the show's always a little bit harder to do. Let's discuss the experience with Casa Cuevas. And first, was that the first factory you went to?
I got to be honest with you, brother. I have yet to actually go down there.
You haven't been to it. You haven't been to the factory yet.
No, I was supposed to go down last winter and then just blew up with these lounges, and I've been just events nonstop. I'm hoping to finally be able to go this winter, to be able to go down and check it out. I've already been talking with Luis. I hit the ground running, and I mean faster than I thought I was going to run.
So your experience with them, like you said, was having the conversation. They sent you different samples and things. You decided what you wanted, how you wanted it, and off they created. How was how'd that process work? Because my experience with them, they're extremely professional in what they do.
So I didn't really know how to do this when I first started, and Luis made this so easy. He explained everything from start to finish, how it was going to work, what I needed to do, what I needed to send to him. And it's actually kind of interesting because, and I want to cover on this because the cigar that you're smoking is the original batch, and you have the original band on it.
Right.
So
this is the original band.
So when you see it, it's real thick paper. There's a lot of design in it. That particular band, when I first started, I didn't have a whole lot of money to do this because I was concentrating on other things at the same time. So what people don't know, I personally printed and cut 40,000 bands, like with scissors. Like I cut 40,000 bands with scissors. And I sent them down. They did the first couple of batches, no problem. And Luis called me and he says, hey, brother, he goes, we got a bit of a problem. It's nothing major. He goes, but the ladies do not like these bands. They're so thick, they're spending more time to get them to hold. I said, okay. So we came up with a monetary configuration to make sure that they're compensated for the extra time that they're spending. And a couple months later, I get a phone call and he goes, hey, brother, I want to talk to you seriously. I'm like, oh shit, what's going on? Like, am I done? And he goes, you're doing good. You're making sales. He goes, I'll be polite again. He said, get rid of these bands and get real ones. So he hooked me up with a guy down in Miami. He's printing all the new bands. And so this here is the Secondo original band. Okay. This is what I designed. This is what I printed and I cut. I've got 5 left of each of the Toros, and then the original batch is gone. This is the one with the new bands on it.
Those are nice.
It's gold foiled, embossed. It's a proper band, and in Luis's terms, it's more Vegas-like because it's more glitz than what I originally printed. So for anybody out there who actually is a collector like me, like when I find out something is short run or it's going to be gone, I buy it because you'll never get it again. Once these bands are gone, they're gone. And I got 5 left of each one of these, and then it switches over. Now, any of the new lounges that I've opened in the last month or so, they've been getting the new bands, but I still have a few bundles of the old bands still here.
So I will tell you this, that somewhere downstream, this band, along with some of the others, are going to probably show up on a cigar band art that my friend locally here, Lou Piscatelli, shout out to Lou, great guy, makes this beautiful cigar band art. And he uses bands. So I always give him all my bands. So these will be featured in some production that he does, or some special piece of art when he needs something blue or green or red. We'll use it. If you have any extras that you want to send to him, he'll gladly accept them and incorporate them into his designs.
I do actually, because when Luis told me that, I still have about 12,000 bands that I can't even use anymore. So they're sitting here.
He would add it to his palette of colors. He does, it just, it's mind-boggling how he can take and create this art with all of these bands. And he's done. I have a couple of his pieces here hanging on my wall, and every time I look at him, it's like, wow. And people are like, that's a nice picture. I said, go up close to it and look at it. Every color and everything in that is cigar band.
That's crazy.
Everything.
Yeah, I'll give him some. I just want one of his pieces because I collect art too. So
if you give him a bunch of bands, I can assure you he'll at least give you a print.
I'm down.
Okay. So going back to the Cuevas family, I mean, beautiful people. Did you meet his wife yet?
No, I've yet to meet his wife or his daughter. Just him and his son Alec. I would like to. If I can't make it to the factory, I'm at least going down to Miami. I want to spend a couple of days with those boys because I haven't seen them in a while. So I'd like to go down and at least say hi, smoke some cigars, and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to go down there sometime, let me know. I might.
Oh, I'll let you know.
I might take a trip down. I always look for a reason to go to Miami.
I get you.
So when you go into that factory, you're going to see some of the stuff, the craft that he has, besides his own cigars, which are just phenomenal. And he only has made his own cigars for like less than 5 years, maybe. Everything prior to that has been for everybody else. And he's made some big name cigars. We'll just leave it at that. But you'll see them. You'll see them on the factory floor. You'll see what they're creating. And he has a very professional operation. He does an amazing job making cigars for others like you, plus private bands for like shops and things like that. So yeah, I adore the family. I've known them for a while. So great group of people.
In the midst of him telling me that to get rid of my bands, and we'll be polite about it, he did send me some videos of how fast the ladies work, which is what drove me to change the bands, because I'm like, okay, I see how quick they're going. So I was able to get some nice video of what the factory looks like, but I will make it there one of these days. I just didn't expect, to go as quickly as I did. Otherwise, I'd have made it down there a long time ago.
Well, you're going to enjoy it down there anyway. There's a lot. It's Casa Cuevas, and then there's a whole lot of other things that you go to. There's so many cool places to visit. Just in that general vicinity of Santiago and Tamboril. So
when I was originally supposed to go, like I already got my money. I already went to the bank and got the Dominican pesos. Like I was ready to go. I just couldn't make it down there. So I will though. I will definitely make it down there. I would love to go see that.
Okay. Let's talk about sommelier. Okay. So you are a certified cigar sommelier, which is, I believe, a step above. It's a step above, or is that the first step in the ladder of?
Through Tobacconist University, I believe it's the first one that they offer. I couldn't do the retail tobacconist because I didn't work at a retail lounge.
Right.
But it is the first step, and I'm going to tell you, man. Like I've studied a lot of things. I've been to five or six different colleges. And I value just knowledge and information. And doing this course, which I highly recommend to anyone who, I don't even care if you're going to do it for a living, just to learn about what you're smoking. Because like you don't understand, when we smoke these cigars, hundreds of hands touch this before you even smoked it. You're sitting there going, why is this cigar $20? Well, if you knew what they did, it should be more. And they teach you from seed to smoke. everything, cultivation, soil. And the one thing that I dislike about this industry, and I wish we would adapt more like the wine industry, is I believe that every single cigar should have a vintage band on. And the reason I say that is when you plant a crop, okay, that crop, no matter same field, whatever, it's never gonna taste the same. And I that's why I really don't like when they release the Cigar Aficionado top 25. You're giving number one to a cigar that by the time it's even announced, it's sold out. So then the company has to make more. And the one year when the EP Carrillo Pledge went number one, I had purchased a box of that before it went number one, and then I purchased a box after it went number one, and two completely different taste profiles. Wow. Because in between, you have to plant something else. So it's just like up here with the farmers that are around me. One year they plant corn, one year they plant soybeans, and they'll constantly rotate it because otherwise it gets too enriched with a certain nutrient, and you want to change that. Once you harvest that field, it's just not the same. So on wine, because I'm a big wine enthusiast, there's a vintage on it. So if I say, okay, I had a bottle of Chateau Latour, you're going to say what year? I'm going to say 57. Okay, I had the 58. Okay, two different tastes, right? Two different harvests. I think in the cigar, I think we should adapt that. Adopt that.
Now, with that said, I don't disagree with that. But then you'll take somebody like Fuente, right, who can make an 858 for the last 30 years, and that 858 tastes the same as it did 30 years ago.
Yeah, so
they're masters at being able to. They must keep certain tobaccos in storage that they're blending and constantly working.
Yeah, they're constantly rotating what they have to where it doesn't really alter the flavors too much. And let's just face it, Carlito he's a don at what he does. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You're talking about a family that's been around for almost 100 years. I mean, they know what they're doing. Same thing with Padron, right? Padron. I've never had a Padron that didn't taste like the Padron that I had years before that. Right. They're just masters at what they do. But even then, as a collector, I still would appreciate having that vintage band on there. And that's just a personal assessment.
I also feel that after smoking cigars for 40 plus years, and watching social media comments and questions that, some newbies will ask and stuff, the concept of humidification. All right. People like cigars at 67%, some like it 72%, some like them at 64%. I asked the brand owners, I said, when you really enjoyed a cigar, what humidity factor would you say is the best expression of that cigar? And put that on the box. Best smoked at 64%.
That's interesting. As I had a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day about that. Personally, I'm a 65% humidity smoker. So I will never walk into a humidor, buy a cigar, and smoke it same day. I've got 19 different humidors in my house, and I've got a plethora of humidors down in my warehouse to store everything. I keep everything at 65 degrees and 72% humidity when I'm storing them. But I have what I call my ready humidor, which is a humidor that my wife bought me. It can hold 50 cigars, and I keep that at 65%. The reason is I don't want that much moisture in my cigar because I feel like it burns it rather than smoke. I'm burning it rather than smoking it because there's so much extra humidity in it that it's working harder to stay lit. I like it a little on the dry side. But then again, that's subjective. But that is a good idea, though. Brand owners saying, best smoked at 65, 62, 72, whatever.
You think it works best here for whatever reason.
I just like them a little bit drier because the burn is a little more even and I'm getting more smoke than char is the best way to say it.
Right. Now, interesting fact, once you light that cigar up, it's at 65%. And I live and breathe with my humidimeter. Okay.
I have one of them too.
Okay. If you want to do an interesting experiment with this, check the humidity. Let's say it's 65%. Fire the cigar up, smoke it about maybe a half an inch in, okay, and stab the middle of the cigar. It's going to read upwards of 90%. Because once you heat the leaf, it activates the moisture content and it grows. It's steam and it just flows through the cigar. So about a half an inch in, that cigar is going to be much higher humidity. Now, with that said, the important thing you want to deal with is not the wrapper that's going to be like that, not so much the binder, but the filler. It's going to have that. Okay. And you want to be able to, you know, and blending, right? From, you know, so you want to take food and cigars, right? So when you blend, right, for flavor. You say, I like this leaf and I like this leaf. And I think if these things go with this and this and this flavor profile with that, I should get this profile out of the cigar, right? And if you're good and you got a good blender working with you, they're going to do that. But the second part is combustion. So certain leaves may taste really good, but put in the wrong spot detract from the combustion of the cigar and cause the cigar to burn off because it's not burning properly. It's not that filler needs to burn slower than the wrapper and the binder, right? To get that cone, to get that perfect burn. So there's a whole science behind that a master blender out there knows that. And they should be able to tell you, well, yeah, but you might have a problem here. All right. It's like these things like, you know, when I see people, I just smoked a cigar the other day, you know, it's one of these double binders, right? And for me, I have rarely had a good experience with a cigar with a double binder because the combustion just doesn't work.
Right.
It's like you're putting a wrapper, a binder, and now you got to get the filler to combust properly to get the heat so that it all burns right. And it doesn't work. Right.
There's 5 different bunching techniques. I'm a big fan of the book where it's just folded over because in my opinion, the way the burn happens and the way the smoke and the heat's traveling through, I personally like that particular bunching better. But if the blender knows what they're doing, they can make anything work. But the arrangement of the leaves, that is crucial, absolutely crucial. And that's how I look at everything. I look at it from a culinary standpoint. I could look at something and go, you know, I need cinnamon in this, but am I going to add the cinnamon now and let it cook and get intense? Or am I going to add it at the end so I'm just getting an essence of it? I'm getting a soupçon of it rather than it being in my face. So it's playing with it. You got to play with it.
Very, very smart. That's I've never heard it explained that way, but I'll keep that in my head now for future times.
That's that culinary background. It works its way into everything I do.
I'm sure it does. And anybody I've ever met in this industry that has a culinary background or a wine background seem to understand their blending better sometimes because they understand, like you were saying, they understand the taste of the sense of taste and smell and how it all works. And that's a whole science into itself.
It's understanding the mechanics of what you're dealing with. And these are produced by nature and it's never going to be the same. Every leaf is going to be different in some way, shape, or form. The way the veins grow is going to alter how the nutrients were dispersed throughout the leaf. I mean, there's an extreme science to it. And that's where people like Carlito and, you know, Jose and George, I mean, that's where they figured that out because they're masters of their craft.
Where are you on cigars when you there are people that complain about stems in cigars, right? You hear it all the time. Oh my God, there's a stem in the cigar. And my question always is to them, A, did the cigar burn well and did you like the taste? Number one. Okay. And two, the only thing I don't like about a stem is having it too close to the head of the cigar where my tongue hits it because it bothers me, right? And has me tending to want to pull it out, which is not what you want to do, because that stem many times is put in there for a flavor profile.
I tell people, first off, I'm going to agree with you. When I get a stem too close to the cap and because I use a V cut when I smoke a cigar.
Okay.
And sometimes in the crux of that V, that stem is sticking out a little bit. And God, that just drives me because I'm biting on it. And one time I actually did pull it out and it ruined the whole thing because now there's too much airflow. Here's what I tell people. If you find a stem in your cigar, the blender put it there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because all right, let's take a sprig of thyme. It's got little flowers on it, right? But it's a stem. If you were to actually chew on the floral part of that, the flower part, you're going to get the taste of thyme. If you're going to chew on the stem of that thyme sprig, you're going to get an intense flavor profile of thyme. All the flavor is sitting in that stem because that's where everything started, right?
All the nutrients.
Okay, so if it's in the cigar, they put it there for a reason. My advice to the rollers is keep it away from the cap.
Right.
Just back it off a quarter inch. Just so we're not biting it, but it's supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm. And it also provides some construction quality to it. It'll hold the ash longer. There's numerous other reasons. Combustion. It helps. It might help with the combustion. There's a reason they put it in there, like I said. Yep. And to listen to people go crazy over this, it's like you got to really be with these folks and watch what they do and understand it, and then you'll have a much better appreciation as to why that's probably there.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you're a big fan of San Andreas. I am too. One of the things I always, strangely, maybe it's just my palate, but San Andreas, one of the principal notes I get out of it is a fruit note. Okay.
Figs. I get figs out of San Andreas.
Okay, fair enough. And what is your view on Honduran tobacco?
I have yet to come across a Honduran leaf that I enjoy. And I'm always in search for it because there's a whole community of tobacco that I won't touch because I don't like the flavor. And I don't know if it's because of how it's cultivated or if it's just the overall taste profile that I just don't like. But I'm always searching for it, for a Honduran based cigar that I can enjoy. I haven't found it. I think it's the mustiness of it that is just overwhelming.
It's a sweet, I like to think of it as a sweet, earthy note.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just personally not a fan of it.
As opposed to Nicaraguan, which is more of a spicy earth note. There seems to be the sweeter earth to it. Like Aladino cigars are just fabulous, they're Honduran cigars. And like when I was young, I was all about Excaliburs and all Honduran. And it's like, I love those. And then Hurricane Mitch happened in Honduras and wiped the fields out. And it took them years to recover from that hurricane. And I think they're back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of them things that, that's how sensitive the tobacco itself is. Tony Bellotto had a major setback where the factory burnt down. And their La Barba purples and reds could not be produced. And what people don't understand is that when a catastrophe happens like that, you're not just like, well, I'll grow it again. It's not that easy. First off, you gotta redo the soil to grow. Then you have to grow it. Then you have to pluck it, ferment it, age it. I mean, Tony's dealing with 4 or 5 year old tobacco before it even gets rolled. you've got 5 years before you can even mess with a cigar again. So when something bad happens, it really sets you back.
Yes.
And that's another reason why I tell, take this course, because you're going to understand. You won't bitch and complain when you actually learn what goes into doing this.
No, and to see it up close, and I've seen it up close numerous times. Every time I see it, it amazes me. There's nothing more special to me than walking into a barn, drying the leaf, curing the leaf, and the aroma. And I use that aroma characteristic in some of my reviews, because sometimes when I smell pre-light, I smell the cigar. It reminds me of a curing barn. Okay.
Right.
Other times it reminds me of a fermented leaf right off the palm. Totally different notes, right? One is before you ferment and the other is during the fermentation. And if you've never experienced that, you're not understanding what I'm talking about. And all I could tell people is go to a place that has it. Go visit J.C. Newman if you don't want to fly out of the country. If you want to go down to Nicaragua or Dominican, go there and visit these places, and you'll understand it. And then the third one is walking into the some of these aging rooms, right, where it will knock you on your ass walking in with the ammonia that flows out of these, because that's why they're sitting in a room, right? I mean, you could take, I take a friend of mine up in the Bronx, right? He does fresh rolled cigars at his place. He's a big hit. Been doing it for 20 something years, right? People come in, they're in Little Italy in the Bronx. People go in there, they get a cigar right up, fresh rolled here, they light it up, and everybody's loving, and that's fine. Right? It's like the first time you smoke, if you go to a factory, you roll a cigar, you're going to smoke a fresh rolled cigar. It's like, fine. But shortly after that, it goes into what's called the sick period, which I'm sure you learned about.
Yep.
Which is that point when everything's marrying and exhausting out ammonias and stuff. And that takes months upon months to come out of that cigar. And how many times do you pick up a cigar and smell that foot and you go, it's not ready? They shipped it early. It smells like ammonia. Put it back in, man. You're going to kill yourself. Put that back in. Leave it alone.
It's funny that you mentioned Newman in Tampa. So I did 2 Februaries ago. Me and my crew went down. We drove from Pennsylvania to Tampa.
And good for you.
Yeah, it was terrible. No, it was a great trip, just long drive. And
hope it was in the winter time.
Oh, what, February? It was beautiful once we got down to the Carolinas. I had the distinct pleasure of being able to interview Drew Newman for my show. And
Fabulous
I mean,
guy.
they were great. They arranged the whole thing. We got to tour. I always tell people, and I'll show it on here. Before I left, I was actually able to purchase this. This belonged to Stanford Newman. And
but wait. That was Stanford Newman's lighter.
This was his personal DuPont. They had it for sale. Drew confirmed it in the middle of the episode. I named it to Stanford. I have it insured, and I show everybody because this is an extreme piece of cigar history. Wow. And I showed Drew in the middle of the episode. I said, "Hey, I want you to see this before it leaves." And as soon as I pull, he goes, "Oh yeah, my grandfather's lighter." And I keep this, and I use this thing every time I light a cigar. It's a dual flame DuPont, Stanford's personal one. I mean, that whole trip was fantastic.
And that's another great family of people.
Yep. I mean, he also signed a Civetta for me too. He
nice.
Actually went upstairs, grabbed one, came back down and signed it for me.
Did you get a chance to go up to into the rolling tables? They didn't have those set up quite yet for the public.
They had everything up there. I chatted with a couple of the girls up there that were doing the banding and all that. I mean, just a great experience overall. And you talk about aroma, dude. As soon as we walked in, like to this day, if I smoke the American, it reminds me of being in there because every American comes out of that factory in Tampa. It was phenomenal. It was a great trip.
Good. So you've got some events coming up, I understand.
Yeah, so July 25th, I will be down at Aroma Cigars in Charlotte, North Carolina. The following day, I'll be visiting two different lounges in West Charleston, West Virginia, and I'll be at Fat Ash in Kentucky Saturday morning, and then Saturday night we'll be up at a new lounge that just opened, which is called the Social Cigar Den in Tiffin, Ohio.
Okay.
I have a few after that, more locally to like Pennsylvania and Ohio, but those are the ones that are coming up immediately.
Did I see you were going to or I went to Tailored Smoke also?
Oh, I go to Taylor Smoke all the time.
Preston, another great
Preston,
guy.
I love Preston. He's a brother Mason. They were actually, so when I arranged that trip this past February, the lady that arranged all this, she no longer works there. They agreed to sit down and have a cigar, and then she called me back and she says, "Hey, you're going to be in town. Why don't we just do an event?" And this is where I got the idea for Patricia over at Casa Aficionado. And I was like, "But I'm not in. You don't carry my cigars." And she's like, "Well, we'll just do this and we'll split at the end of the night." I said, "Okay, cool." The following day, they put in a massive order and put me in both of their Charlotte locations. And Jazz is the one that I deal with down there. Such a great lady. That whole team is phenomenal. Every time we go in town, we're always visiting the lounges, whether we're doing an event or not. But yeah, Preston, I mean, my man, that
Did you have
I
the
love
steak
watching.
dinner?
No,
Did you
I
have
actually don't. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't actually.
Oh man.
I don't
Oh,
actually eat meat, but no, every time I watch his videos coming to you live, I love watching his stuff when he does that.
he's
But
such a
no,
dapper individual and
yeah, he's a great guy. The Charlotte cigar scene is something I've never experienced because it's a lifestyle to them. And then you get in good with the good time gangs that are all over the place. And I love, I mean, I just love, I can't say enough, good about them. That whole community is phenomenal. Actually, you talk about Taylor, I'll announce it now. I don't have a date, but Preston has agreed to do a launch party for my new cigar that's coming out. It's called the Number 40. It's for my 40th birthday. It's releasing on my birthday, November 21st. And he will be doing the launch party, which will probably be a Saturday or two before the actual release day. So if anybody's in the area and wants to come try that, whenever I finally have a date, I'm going to announce it. And it's going to be big. It's going to
are
be
you
big.
going to do that at Charlotte? You're going to do it in Concord?
We haven't figured that out yet. I think it's going to be in Concord, which is where I've done
Yeah.
both my events so far down there. I love the Charlotte, but it's so hard to get to.
So I have not been to the Concord one yet. I was going to go and then family things happened, but based on your scheduling that you just mentioned, my 65th birthday is November 8th. All right.
Oh man.
So that's right in the zone. All right. I'm like, I'll just, I'll fly up North Carolina. I'll go say, hey, I'll come up to Concord and just hang out for a night and do that because I have to go up and see him anyway. So it'll kill two birds with one stone. We'll have a great time. I'll get another lounge review under my belt and we'll have a phenomenal day. So let me know. Keep me updated.
I will definitely let you know as soon as Jazz gives me a date. I can tell you out of both lounges, the Concord one is the one that I enjoy more because it's more intimate.
Okay.
It's also easier to get to. It's in a plaza up there. But I mean, just the staff is just wonderful. That you can open the doors and go out onto the concrete slab and set up tables out there. We did two events there, just phenomenal up there. I absolutely love that particular location. But it's for my new cigar, which I'll say it now. And actually, I'll tell you this: any of the events that I've been doing, I do a raffle giveaway at the end of the night. So it's like one of my travel bags, and I do a couple spritzes and beard oils and things like that. I also
you do a lot of that. I didn't bring that up on the site, so I should point that out. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but on the site, if you guys are beard guys, Aaron's got a whole selection of beard ointments and things on his site that he sells too. You got a whole bunch of cool stuff that you sell on the site. You don't sell the cigars on the site, but you're selling a lot of cool stuff on your site.
Yeah, so if you want cigars online right now, slipperyrockcigars.com and Havana House Online sell my cigars online. I pulled them once they started doing it. But all my other stuff, so everything that I sell is stuff that I personally use. It's all made in my warehouse here in Pennsylvania. It's all natural, no chemicals. It's good for your beard, a lot of vitamins inside of it, but it goes with the lifestyle. So the spritzes, when I created them, my wife loves the cigars. She just hates when I smell like an ashtray. So I created these spritzes so when you're done, you can spray them on, you know, your clothes, your skin, your hair, whatever, and it eliminates the cigar smell. And that's why I have them. And everything that I have is really catered to men. I do have a couple of spritzes for females, but my entire line is pretty much catered to men. And a lot of that merchandise, it comes from my touring days where, you know, we didn't really make a lot of money on albums because it's all streaming. So we had to be creative with our merchandise. So all the merchandise that I have, I mean, there's quite a bit of it. Like there's too much to go over. Like you'd actually have to go to my website to see it all. But I want to say before I forget, so the new cigar, I have samples that Luis sent up for me, and I'm putting one in each of my raffle giveaways at my event. So if you win the raffle, you actually get to taste this new number 40 before it even releases. It's got a wonderful Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, and I found that anything that comes from Ecuador, it obtains that creaminess, which I absolutely love. And I don't like Connecticut cigars. So my goal with this was to create a Connecticut cigar that I would enjoy. And it's got the Dominican Olor binder, Nicaraguan and Dominican long fillers. It's a beautiful selection. Cuevas nailed it when they put everything together for me. I mean, it's tasty. So I have yours, but you ain't getting them yet because I'm waiting for the actual cigars to come in. But you will get them to review. But that's the new one that's coming out in November.
Have you had Lewis's Connecticut?
Yes, I have. It's one of the ones that I actually smoke.
Yeah, it's because he's doing the right thing with it.
Yep.
You know, he's got it down.
They know what they're doing. We'll say it that way. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I do want to say before I forget, a lot of people, you know, they're like, oh, you have a cigar company, but you smoke a pipe. Let me talk about this real quick if we have a minute.
Go for it.
So I have a couple buddies who are big pipe enthusiasts, and they won't smoke my cigars because they're strictly pipes, and I respect that. So what I did was I actually created my blends in pipe tins. So for the pipe enthusiasts, they can actually smoke my actual blend in their pipe. So the idea came, I was sitting around with Evan and Vince, and I was just complaining about plug cigars. And I said, you know, I don't smoke a pipe, but if I had a pipe, I would tear this thing apart and smoke it in a pipe. Well, I woke up the next day and I'm like, why am I not doing that to my cigars to attract the pipe community? So I went down to the warehouse, I started messing around with them, and all it is shredded premium cigar tobacco. It's not pipe tobacco, it's actual shredded cigar tobacco that you can smoke in the pipe. And I'm going to tell you, you get a totally different flavor profile when you smoke it in a pipe versus smoking it as a cigar, because now you're smoking the shreds. So you're getting all these different flavors. So if you are a pipe smoker and you want to try them, I do have these. Not many stores have them yet. Let me see. Living My Best Cigar Life in Moundsville, West Virginia carries them, and Superior Smoke Shops in Natrona, Pennsylvania carries the pipe tins as of right now.
So this leaf is not cured to be pipe tobacco.
It's not, yeah, it's not fire cured. It's actual cigars shredded for the pipe smoker.
Be interesting. That could turn me on to smoking a pipe. I haven't smoked one in a long time.
That's why I have mine.
I like
Plus,
that.
you know, once you light a cigar, you're committed. You're committed until that cigar is done.
Yeah.
And when you want to enjoy the taste of your tobacco, but you don't have an hour to sit there and smoke, throw it in a pipe and get your flavor and move on to what you're doing.
Right. And that's what I know a number of pipe smokers that are also cigar enthusiasts, and you know, they talk about their pipes all the time on these different Zoom shows I'm on, and it just reminds me when I was younger, you know, I had a pipe but I moved deeper into cigars and moved away from the pipe. But as I get older, I'm sitting back going, maybe I should be smoking a pipe once in a while.
I'll send you some with the Connecticut's. You can give it a shot.
Give it a shot. I go out and buy myself a pipe finally. I haven't
There you
had one in a
go.
while. I should have saved my dad's pipes, man. My dad smoked pipes, but not for many years, before he passed. But it was interesting. He had a pipe humidor, right? That had you opened it up and it was all the tobacco was in there, right? And then there were like 6 pipes that sat on the sides of
Oh,
it.
nice.
And I don't know who in the family got that. Somebody in the family got that, when we cleaned out the house. I should have taken it, but I don't know. It must have been my younger brother or somebody that got it. But yeah, no, it's pipe. I mean, you look at what like Saka has done with his pipe stuff,
Yep.
by taking the pipe tobacco, putting it into cigars.
Yep.
It's not for everybody because he's using, properly cured pipe tobacco, but it adds this uniqueness to it. So,
Yep. Sokka's good for that. He's a good innovator, trying to do things that other people aren't doing.
yeah. I mean, you got to in this industry loves innovation. Okay, it loves new things that people can come out with. Anytime you can do that, they're going to applaud you if you can make it happen. But if you just make a rock solid cigar, people are going to applaud you too. You're going to have your followers, and you're just going to maintain that base and grow it, and over time. And it takes 5 years. I'm going to say it's going to take you 5 years to get to the point where you are really feeling like you're successful in the business.
Well, I look at life a different way. After I lost my father, things started to really click. And it's a saying that me and my rep Vince, we always tell people, and we mean it. We don't just say it to say it. We're all about creating memories, not making money. Money will come.
Right.
Money kind of ruins us all. But memories, we'll have those forever. Money comes and goes. I can always make money. I'm not worried about that. But if you can't make a memory, what are you doing? And that's what I'm trying to do in life. So every day that I wake up and I breathe, it's going to be a good day. And any day that I can sit and smoke a cigar with somebody and have a good time, I'm successful. That's how I look at it. Money doesn't find success. That's just how I look at life.
And my dad, he was the one who always, when he was older, he would always get the daily news. He'd look at the back, look at the sports page, look at the headline on the front, and he always opened it up to the obituaries. He'd look to see who he knew that died.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he goes, and he said, I'm not in the book yet. It's a good day.
so my hat that, and I told you before we started, I wore a different hat because it's just too hot to be wearing my brim. But that hat has become a staple as part of my image. And when people see the hat, then they know who I am. But if you pay attention close to the hat, because I made that hat from scratch, the band that's on the outside has skulls on it, and the material on the inside is the same. It has skulls on it. And back in my band days, like I wear a lot of rings. So I used to have a lot of skull rings. And people would always ask me the significance of the skulls. And I told them it's a reminder of what's waiting for me. So live it up, because tomorrow is just never a guarantee. One day we're just going to be a skeleton in a box. You got to live.
Yeah. Live like there's no tomorrow sometimes. It's like I said in the beginning when I went on vacation, it's like I'm just living it, man. I'm gonna enjoy every moment from here on out. I worked hard for the last 40 plus years of my life, and now it's time to enjoy everything I've done and not worry about anything. Just go enjoy
Yep.
and try different things. And if it doesn't work, you check the box and say, yeah, I didn't like that. I'm not going to do that no more. That's doesn't
Yep. Move on to
doesn't
the
help
next
me.
thing.
Move on to some other adventure and find a new one. So besides cigars, food, music, what else do you enjoy in life?
I suppose, I mean, aside, obviously, aside from being around my family and just living, um, I concentrate on one thing at a time. And when it's not fun anymore, I move on to the next thing. Cooking was a huge part of my life. It's what got me started. When it wasn't fun, I moved on and went to music. And when music wasn't fun anymore, I moved on. Cigars, this is more my retirement plan. This is something I want to do for the rest of my life. But I can't say it enough, man. As long as I can wake up in the morning, that's going to be a good day. And it's just whatever the day's got in store for me, I take it as it comes.
There you go. Fantastic. We're beyond the hour and a half mark easily. I'm going to give you the last word.
The last word I would say is my slogan. Enjoy your smokes. That'd be the last word. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate you for having me on here. I look forward to seeing you up at that number 40 release event. If anybody's in the area, whenever I'm doing an event, I'd love to see you. Love to smoke with you. I don't remember names. I remember faces. That's why I call everybody bro. But
Yeah.
you got it. Just enjoy your smokes. That's my word.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't ever knock somebody who can't remember names, because I'm that person too. My wife is so good at that now that if we're in a social environment and I walk over and say hi to somebody and I can't remember their name, my wife immediately jumps into that equation and says, "Hi, I'm Jimmie's wife, Diane," and they will say, "Oh, I'm so-and-so." And and then I've cured that problem.
Right.
Because I'm terrible with names. And if there's one thing I would have figured out in my life is how to remember names, but I'll never forget a face.
Yeah,
Never forget a face.
I
just
forget a
know
face.
people. And so thank you very much for joining the show. I hope you enjoyed it too.
I had a great time, man. Great time.
Thank everybody for joining. This is always it's a Sunday night, normally it's a Saturday night, but at conflict, but we're flexible. And we'll see what happens next week. I'm still trying to line somebody up. Oh no, not next week. I can't. Next week I'm at my granddaughter's first communion. So unless I line something up for a Thursday night, there'll be no show next week.
You better get your schedule straight.
I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore. When I retired in February, and it, like, on the second week of February, it settled in that I didn't know what day of the week it is. So much so that there are nights where I forget to put the garbage out because I think it's a Tuesday and not a Monday. And all day I'm thinking it's a Tuesday. And then I get up on Wednesday, it's like, I forgot to put the garbage out last night again. I need little stickies on the wall telling me what day of the week it is. And it's like I have no schedule, basically. And it's like it's a fun experience, believe it or not, to just sit there and go, what day of the week it is. And I ask myself that more than one time a week. Like, is today Tuesday or Thursday? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So thank you very much. That's our show for tonight, folks. I want to thank everybody for joining. Thank sponsors. Without you, it's a little bit harder to do.